surrounding area. More information at 607-261-1674 or CatskillMountainCleaning.com. Hannah Mountain Resort and Country Club with 29 guest rooms, restaurant, and bar, specializing in wedding packages, including rehearsal, dinner, ceremony, reception, farewell brunch, and accommodations for guests. And golf memberships are available for Hannah's 18-hole championship golf course. Information at hannahcountryresort.com or 845-586-4849. O'Connell and Aronowitz, attorneys at law since 1925. For legal representation from the routine to the more complex, committed to the fair treatment of all individuals. Family law, wills, trusts and estate planning, litigation, accidents and personal injury, constitutional law, Medicaid planning, elder care and health law, criminal defense, not-for-profit and entity formation, commercial financing. O'Connell and Aronowitz, attorneys at law, 518-462-5601. 518-462-5601. OAlaw.com.
Hello, this is Rosina Montan.
Welcome to Catskills Commerce. I'm Ray Pucci, and as president of the Delaware County Chamber of Commerce, I am honored to work with some of the most optimistic and energized people I think I've ever met. A lot of our business owners, business leaders, their staffs, of course, some elected officials as well, including my guest in a few minutes. But together we help move our local economy forward. The Chamber believes that healthy communities start with healthy businesses. We support our entrepreneurs by advocating for public policies that create an environment in which private enterprise may thrive. We promote our region as a great place to visit, to live, to learn, to work, and yes, to play. We create programs that enhance our communities and improve our quality of life. We believe in collaboration. And we believe that the surest way to success is a partnership among business, government, community groups, and education that is mutually beneficial and based in respect, trust, and honesty. Finally, the Chamber believes in the potential of this region, our residents, our institutions, and all who call this special place home, or who have an interest in our collective success. Pretty simple, but that's the message. That's the purpose of this program. That's the purpose of a lot that we do at the Delaware County Chamber, to continue to spread that news that we remain a vibrant and diverse place here in the Catskill Mountains of New York State. Well, thanks for joining me this afternoon, folks. Got a really interesting program, I think, ahead for you. Going to learn a lot. We're going to, as I always say, this is first-person radio. This is opinions. This is facts. This is getting you in front of, or getting people who are making the difference in our region in front of you, so you can hear directly from them as to what's happening, and more importantly, how you can get involved in affecting change here in our county, in our region, and in our state. And I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to introduce to you someone who really has become a friend. And Chris Tague represents this part of Delaware County in the current 102nd Assembly District. Chris comes out of an agricultural experience. He comes out of a business, and those two are not mutually exclusive background. And one of the things that Chris is working on right now, Chris has to be one of the hardest working representatives there in Albany. And Chris knows I'm not just blowing smoke here. Chris likes to sometimes think of himself as America's assemblyman, and I can't disagree with that assessment. Chris Tague, thanks for joining me this afternoon here on WIOX Community Radio for Catskills Commerce.
Well, thanks, Ray. I appreciate it. It's always an honor and a pleasure, and we appreciate everything that you and Lily do for the business community of Delaware County. You folks do a great job at the Greene County Chamber, and it's always an honor and a pleasure to join you on this program. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, you just assigned us to your other favorite chamber. And I know that was just a faux pas. You just mentioned Jeff over at the Greene Chamber, who certainly is doing great work. We're out here in Delaware County, but of course you know that. But I know you know that. Did
I say Greene County?
You just, when we're talking about Jeff out there in Greene, he just dominates every conversation. I understand.
No, you guys, let me correct the record. The Delaware County Chamber of Commerce.
Chris, thank you. You've been busy lately. Well, you're always busy. I don't know how, folks half your age can't keep up with you. One of the things that you've been working on very diligently most recently is what may be happening with the Farm Labor Wage Board. Would you tell everyone what that issue is, and then we can dive in, we can unpack it a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. And I would say that the most important thing about this is that this is a very precarious moment for the future of agriculture in New York. What they had done was propose legislation originally to lower the threshold for farm workers overtime to a regular 40-hour work week, just like most other businesses.
Right.
Originally, then we had the issues with COVID, and we had the distribution problems with getting product to market. Our store shelves were empty, so they decided to kind of have a compromise, and they went down to 60 hours. And to be quite honest, I wasn't in support of that either. But it was a compromise, and it seemed to make most farmers and most of the farm membership organizations, such as Farm Bureau, American Dairy Council, folks like that, they were satisfied. They weren't happy. I don't think that they were all in agreement with it, but it was something. But with that being said, there was also in the legislation, it said that the Farm Labor Wage Board had to make a decision on the 40 hours by the end of this year. So, and I believe actually the date is December 15th or 16th.
I think it's the 15th that they're going to be meeting.
Yeah. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, let's unpack that a little bit, because you're right. Back in, I think it was 2019 is when that legislation was passed, and you spoke out very strongly against it. The Delaware County Chamber testified at one of those few public hearings that took place in New York State regarding that. And you're right, that compromise position was sort of, well, we need to have something for overtime, so let's set it at 60 hours a week and with Sundays off, and really kind of disregarded the realities of agriculture. There's a work day, there's a work week And then there's an agricultural work day and work week, and the two don't always mesh. You know, you had a dairy farm on your, you know, small family farm for a lot of years. You certainly understand that.
Yeah, that's the real problem here. You know, back when President Roosevelt came into office, way back then, during the Depression, when they actually had the Labor Act, which included time and a half for overtime wages, agriculture was eliminated specifically for the same reasons why we feel today that that agriculture should not be included. And here's some of the reasons. Number one, farmers are price takers. They're not price givers.
Great
and
point.
That's the biggest problem in this whole thing. And I've been saying this for 30 some years.
Chris, explain what you mean by that, because that's yeah, that really is, that's a central point that folks really don't understand.
Well, when you own a restaurant or you own a hardware store, you know what your overhead costs are. So when you price out your product, you make sure that your that your labor's covered, your energy cost, your building rent or mortgage. And at the end of the day, there's a little bit left in there after your employees are paid, your insurances and everything else for profit. So when you're a business person, you always set up so there's some sort of profit margin. A farmer can't do that. And here's why. You don't know what your energy costs are going to be. You surely in today's world don't know what your fuel costs are going to be.
True.
Your grain costs, which continuously rise and have rise. I can tell you right now, the type of feed that I fed my cows, box mott is what it was years ago, was a high protein grain. Folks that are using that same type of feed today are paying $200 more a ton than I was in 1993.
Wow.
But guess what? The price of milk hasn't went up. Actually, it's went down.
Yeah.
So the point is that they don't tell anybody what they're going to get paid. They get told what they're going to get paid. And that's the real problem here. Farm Credit East came out with a report probably about 3 weeks ago. I was in a meeting with them. The average, and I'm going to use dairy farmers just as an example. It cost them $17.89 a hundredweight to run their farm. They're only getting paid $17.39. So they're losing 40 cents per hundredweight for every 100 gallon or 100 pounds of milk that they're producing. How can you stay? That means that somebody's not getting paid at the end when the milk check comes in.
That's right.
And usually the one that's not getting paid is the farmer themselves. I can tell you that back in the 80s and 90s when I had my own farm, there were plenty of milk checks that I went without any money. Any money. The farm had to pay the bills. We always paid our hired folks first.
Sure.
That way, if there wasn't anything left over, at least our employees were paid. So, that's the biggest issue here is that, you look at the prices in the store, the price of corn, the price of vegetables, the price of fruits, the price of dairy products, they're all going up. And a lot of people think, oh, it must be the farmers are making a lot of money. No, that's not how it works. The farms are paid on a global scale, a global economy, a global market. And I can tell you right now, I have had conversation after conversation with economists over the years, and I haven't found one economist yet that absolutely, completely understands how the milk market works, including myself.
It's a mystery.
It's a mystery. And so to make my point here is you cannot expect these farmers who right now if they are making a profit, their profit margin is very thin to they're on the other side to there is no profit. And now you're asking them and what Farm Credit East reports is a 42% increase in labor costs.
Mm.
42%
Mm-mm.
if this law goes into effect at 40 hours. And what it's going to do is it's actually going to deflate the whole purpose. The purpose of this was to help the farm worker. I can tell you exactly what's going to happen. Every single farmer that has hired help, they're going to limit the amount of hours that the employees can work.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're going to getting paid straight time for the hours they work. They're probably only going to work 39 or 40 hours a week. They're going to be putting less money in their pocket. And we've already seen a shift. Many migrant workers that have worked in New York State year after year after year have left for other states that don't have overtime laws.
Oh.
Because they can better their pay.
Yeah.
These folks are used to working. They're seasonal workers. They like to go in during that season and work as many hours as they can. And then they'll move to another state. You know, some of them will work, in the Northeast during the summer months, and then they'll go to California or Texas in the winter because they can keep working. Their whole purpose is to maximize the amount of money they can make here. Many of them send money home. Many of them are looking to start a new life here. And the other thing is too, being a farmer myself, but most of my friends and people that I've known over my life are in the agriculture industry. None of them have ever done this to get rich.
Mm-hmm.
This, unfortunately, government is forcing agriculture into becoming big corporate companies like we have in New York City and Wall Street. And that's not what farming was about. Farming is, when you talk about baseball and apple pie being American, think about our farmers. That's
Absolutely.
American.
You bet.
And, to push out family farms and, limit ourselves to farms that are just, what we call corporate farms. And listen, they have just as much right to be in business as anybody else. But, we're going to see not many young people left in agriculture. I mean, the other day there was a report that came out that the average age of a farmer right now is in the upper 60s. Upper 60s. How many more? The toll that they have put on their bodies, the hard work, how much longer are they going to stay in business? And if they don't have a young person in their family to take over, the farm is lost.
Yeah.
So this comes down to just common sense, to be quite honest. You cannot expect these farms to stay in business when you're going to increase their labor costs 42%. The only way they're going to be able to continue on is if we raise the prices of the product. And I don't know about you, but when I look at my supermarket bill after my wife and I go shopping, I don't know how single parents or parents that are making the median income, how the heck they're surviving.
Yeah, it's certainly a lot more than it was a couple of years ago.
Exactly. And so I think that everybody is in favor of the compromise. I have called on the governor and Commissioner Reardon and the members of the Farm Labor Wage Board to just stick with the 60 hours. Listen, New York State agriculture could be self-sufficient, but we've already put so many regulations on our farms in this state. Our farmers are already at a disadvantage, unlevel playing field. And here's a couple other facts that people may not know. We have schools that import milk. It's milk that comes from facilities outside of New York State.
Wait. How is that even possible?
That's how it works, because procurement in the state of New York is fair across the board. And the other thing is we have a lack of processing. We have a lack of processing in New York State.
True.
Same thing with apples. New York State is the second highest producer of apples in this country. Guess what? We import apples from Washington State. So it just boggles my mind. New York should be taking care of New York farmers first, and then outside of there. And you know, my other concern is we just passed the Nourish New York program, which I was a sponsor of.
Yes.
Which is a great bill, but putting this, changing the labor wage rate with the overtime rules is going to make for big problems for the Nourish New York program. Big problems.
You know, I want to talk a little bit more about the bill that established the overtime laws. You know, during the public hearings, I attended, Lillian and I attended the one down in Sullivan County. That was the one that was closest to us in Delaware. And I testified at that. And the folks from the Senate, I think it was the Senate, Agricultural Committee and the Labor, no, it was the Senate Labor Committee were there. And there were several people, several of those workers that you mentioned, who are here in New York State only seasonally, spoke. Sometimes, honestly, through a translator, but they spoke and they said exactly what you just outlined. That we come here for 8 weeks during the year. We want to put in all the time that we can because we need to. You know, we need those days, we need those hours, we need that money. We're supporting families back home, wherever that may be. And you're right, then they move along and they follow the harvest, if you will. I mean, I know it sounds like I'm talking about the grapes of wrath here, but that's still the reality for a lot of people. And their concern was, you know, you're going to cut back on my time. You know, I like you said, I'm going to go somewhere else. And that's what's happened. So not only do we are losing that part of our population, as New York State's population continues to decline, our farmers are put in a position where there's less and less available staffing that's available, particularly at harvest time. And it doesn't matter if you're talking about apples, if you're talking about strawberries, if you're talking about hay, or on a daily basis, milking. You know, those cows need to be milked. And you can't say, I'm sorry, I don't have anybody here today, so we're going to close on a Tuesday. You know, it just doesn't work that way. Chris, I want you to, and one thing, when that legislation was passed, it removed the state legislature from any review. It established that review board that you talked about, where it's the labor commissioner, Commissioner Reardon, it's a representative from the New York Farm Bureau, and the third representative is a union official who I think is from out in Buffalo, if I remember correctly. And those are the three people that are going to make that decision. It's not going to be up to you and your colleagues in the assembly or your colleagues over in the state senate.
That's part of the problem, Ray. And that happens all the time. We have more commissions, okay, than you can shake a stick at. There's a commission for everything because the majority just tries to take themselves off the hook. So they just put it in the hands of somebody else, and it's ridiculous. This bill should have never passed to begin with. You know, and then again, it goes back to people making decisions on issues that they have no idea about them. That's why this is one of the reasons why I started doing my farm tour.
Well, talk about the farm tours, because that's, you know, I was at a Farm Bureau meeting last evening for the Delaware County Farm Bureau, their annual meeting, and Senator Pete Oberacker spoke, and one of the things that the senator said is, and you're going to love this, he said, you know, I'm going to be more like Chris Tague. I'm gonna start doing these farm tours because it's really making a difference. So why don't you tell people what those farm tours are?
Well, what we've done it for the last 3 years, is once a year, usually in September, I put together a farm tour, and we invite all the members of the New York State Senate and all the members of the New York State Assembly, and we spend 2.5 days touring all different types of agriculture. We weren't in Delaware County this year, but we were last year.
Yeah.
This year we were mostly in Ulster, Columbia, and Greene County. The year before was Schoharie and Delaware, and Otsego. But what we do is we go to every single type of farm that there is and let the farm owners explain to the members how they run their operation, how they survive, what regulations and laws hurt them or help them. And we always at the end ask them, what can we do better in Albany to help them better run their business? Nourish New York came out of my farm tour.
Really?
Yes. It all started back when the crisis began with COVID. And I had written a letter to Commissioner Ball and Governor Cuomo at the time, and also President Trump and Ag Secretary Perdue, that we had a serious problem. I had farms in my district that were dumping milk.
That's right.
And we had crop farms that were covering up crop because they were afraid they had nowhere to go with it. We had a distribution problem. We had come up with the idea of, we have people that are starving to death in New York City, especially during this crisis. Yeah. And we're dumping food. We got to find a way of getting the extra that would normally be thrown out to people in need. So that's kind of how the Nourish New York program started. Then the governor had made a executive order. I think it was originally $25 million. And then this, about 2 weeks ago, I was actually in Queens with Senator Borrello, Senator Hinchy, Assemblywoman Cruz, and Governor Hochul, and we signed the bill that made Nourish New York permanent, and now it's at 50 million, and we're gonna look at increasing that in the future. But anyways, there are many things that have come out of that farm tour. I also have a bill, a farm resiliency bill, that would entice and invest in infrastructure for more processing facilities within New York State, both dairy and livestock. Right now, if you're a beef farmer or lamb or sheep farmer or chicken farmer in New York State, good luck at trying to get your animals processed. It's a serious problem. So we're looking at that. The program also includes funding for disabled and veteran farmers. We need to keep agriculture strong in New York State. Especially in rural upstate New York, it is the #1 economic driver. A small county like my home county is Schoharie, between $38 and $50 million a year, indirect or directly, comes from agriculture. That's a lot of money when your county budget is only 70 million.
Yeah,
that's a lot of money.
You bet.
So, but here's the thing. A lot of our metropolitan lawmakers, they don't really know where their food comes from.
Yeah.
That's why we did the farm tour. We brought them up here and explained to them, listen, folks, you don't just go to the supermarket. That is not where the start of your food comes from.
Apples don't come already bagged?
That's right. Exactly. But the good news is we had between 50 and 60 lawmakers at the last farm tour. And the Women's Conference, which is bipartisan in the Assembly, because of the farm tour, is making it one of their top priorities in their agenda coming this January in session, is agriculture and legislation to help agriculture in the state of New York. So
congratulations. That's great.
Exactly. It's working. And let me tell you what, the Women's Conference is very powerful in the New York State Assembly. Majority of the members are from the New York City region. So they, they understand. Now they're starting to understand. We call it the connecting the dots from rural upstate New York to, to the city.
Yeah.
Listen, everybody's got to agree on one thing. It doesn't matter if, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent. No one in the year 2021 should starve. No one in the year 2021 should go without food. And it's our job to make sure that people get top quality, good, nourishing food. But on the other hand, we also have to make it viable so our farmers can continue to stay in business.
Well, you make an excellent point. So this really is a food security issue for everybody. It's not just, this is not just about the farmers.
No, this is about everybody. This is about every single man, woman, and children, not only here in New York State, but across America. We have a food insecurity problem in a lot of our inner cities. And it shouldn't be. It just shouldn't be. So, we need to continue to move forward. Nobody begrudges a farm worker either of making a fair wage. The whole problem here is that the farmer can't afford to pay any more than they're already paying. And Ray, you and I know lots of farmers throughout rural upstate New York.
Yeah.
And I know farmers that have migrant workers on their farm. They give these folks excellent housing. They take them to get their groceries. They make sure that they have clothes and the proper equipment while doing their jobs. They take them out for dinner. Listen, farmers are good people. They spend their whole life feeding us and never making a dime. I tell everybody when people say to me, something about the farmer, I said, have you ever seen a rich farmer driving down the road in a new Cadillac? No. Because they're just hardworking. They care about they're very compassionate people. They care more about doing the job that they do than about how much money they make. But they still have to survive. And that's really what this is about. We have to make sure that our farmers survive. Farm Bureau says it best. They have a saying, no farms, no food.
Yeah, real simple.
That really needs to stick people in the gut. They need to realize that, especially those of us that have lived in this area our entire life, go down the side roads in your hometown and look at all the farms that used to be there and how many of them are gone now. That saying, no farms, no food, could actually come to be. And if you think that food prices are high right now or that subsidies are high, wait until you only have a handful of farms across the country and what you'll be paying for your food.
Right, because right now our transportation costs are fairly small because you don't have to move it that far. Now, when you got a farm, when your farm belt is 1,500 miles away instead of down the road from you, those costs inevitably are going to increase.
Yeah, and then that's another thing too. You brought up a very good point. Back when I was milking cows, when I shipped my milk, I never had to pay for my trucking.
Really?
Now, it was part of the program. Now, I see that a certain amount of money is taken out of the milk check.
Oh yeah.
Every month for transportation.
Well, like you said, they're price takers.
Yep. And that's my point. So, 20, 30 years ago, they weren't paying to have their milk shipped. Now they are, but they're not making any more 100 weight for the milk that they're producing now. Grain prices have doubled or tripled. Fuel prices, God, you can't even put your finger on that right now. But they're still getting paid the $17 and change 100 weight for their milk.
And when we talk about 100 weight, that just is 100 pounds of milk. And what is that? That's about 8 1/4 gallons, something like that.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. So $17. Now, take the price of milk, which is what, $3.50 right now, between $3.50 and $4. I think I saw some milk as high as 4 or 4 1/4. So you take that, let's say 9 gallons times $4, that's what, $36?
That's $36.
$36, but the farmer's only getting paid 17.
Right.
So it just doesn't add up.
Exactly. Hey, you did something recently to bring attention to this whole issue with farmers, and I think you were down in New York and you were in Albany the other day. Would you tell everyone about what you did?
Well, I wrote an op-ed to the New York Daily News.
Well, there's that. That's right. I forgot about that. Let's start with that.
Yeah, I happened to be going through some articles on this issue, and someone had wrote an op-ed in the Daily News, pretty much full of untruths, and I think it was just the fact that they didn't know. Mm-hmm. And we're calling our farmers just rich people, and they just don't want to pay their workers, and they're greedy and blah 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 blah, and it really infuriated me.
Good. So
I wrote an op-ed to the Daily News, telling the true story with the facts and figures, and why increasing the threshold or decreasing the threshold for overtime, why it would hurt the economy, why it would hurt the farm worker, why it would hurt the farmer, and why it would increase food prices. And then we did a press conference in Albany with Farm Bureau and Grow New York, a whole bunch of different farm membership organizations, and we let the farmers tell the story.
And that is so key, is telling the story and personalizing what this means. And 2 years ago when I testified, or 2+ years ago when I testified to that Senate committee, I talked very, very plainly about one of our young farmers, Kyle Clark over in Delhi, who was in the midst of this pandemic, opened a dairy processing facility with I got to tell you, damn good milk, Chris.
Oh, I'm going to tell you right now. I've been telling you I'd like to go out there and meet Kyle.
You tell me, you give me a date, and I'll tie, if I have to tie him, if I have to tie him to one of his processing machines to make sure that he'll be there, he'll be there.
Well, you bring up a good point, because I'll tell you, Ray, I always said after I had sold out, and then I went in the heavy highway construction industry.
Yeah.
I would have done exactly what Kyle had done had I been a little bit smarter back then. I know one or two things would have happened. I would have failed and been in the heavy highway construction industry anyways, or I would have succeeded. But I think Kyle made the right choice. And I think folks, that have made that choice themselves. Listen, it's still not the best position to be in, but you have a little bit more. You have a little bit more room to be able to control.
You got some control,
and you can choose your market. That's the other thing. And I think what that young man has done is phenomenal. And I actually tell farmers all the time, if you can design a market and a business plan, and you can make that investment, that's the way to go. Because then you don't have people telling you what, when and how. You can pick and choose how and where you do it.
Exactly. So what can folks do? How can people support the great efforts that you have made to stop this craziness? Who do they contact? How do they, what can folks do at this point?
I think they need to email or call Governor Hochul's office. They need to call or email Commissioner Reardon's office and write letters to the editors of newspapers, go on social media and just say, government, stop biting the hand that feeds us.
Literally.
Exactly. Stop biting the hand that feeds us. Please do the right thing. Common sense dictates that if you pass this law and lower the threshold to 40, you're going to put our farms out of business and take a food insecurity problem that's already bad and make it worse. But that would be my suggestion. Call the governor's office, email the governor's office, call and email Commissioner Reardon, go on Facebook, go on Twitter, write a letter to your local newspaper, and just call on them to pay attention. This is an important issue. This affects everybody. That's the other thing about this. This just doesn't affect a certain amount of people. This affects everybody when you talk about our food supply. Yeah. So, that would be my suggestion. That's what I'm encouraging folks to do. Let your voices be heard. If not, I still have people saying, oh, it doesn't matter. Nobody listens. Oh, yes, they do. Let me tell you what, this past November, a lot of people listened. And if you don't think they're not going to listen, they are going to listen because they are very worried about what next November is going to look like. So now is the time. Now is the time.
Well, Chris, what I'm going to do to make sure that folks have that information is if people can go to there'll be information later this afternoon at the Delaware County Chamber's Facebook page. Some of the details, some of the facts, and more importantly, contact info for Commissioner Reardon, for Governor Hochul, so that folks can just kind of click through and make their, like you said, make their voices known, make their feelings known.
And the other thing I would say to folks, look at how beautiful Delaware County is. Just look at, I have 7 counties that I represent, and I am so lucky. I am so lucky and blessed to represent the most unique, most beautiful counties in all of New York State. And Delaware County, with its rolling hills, its croplands, we got Delhi, SUNY Delhi, right in Delaware County. We have some of the best farms in New York State, if not New York State, the country, right in Delaware County. Just think of if half more of them go out of business in the next couple of years, what are we going to do? What are we going to do with that land? What are we going to do with those farms? I would rather keep it the way it is. That's what I would like to do. Let's keep Delaware County and our surrounding agricultural area. Let's keep it in agriculture. Let's keep it feeding America. That's what we've done best, and that's what we'll continue to do.
Yeah, Chris, I'm here at WIOX Studios. And oh, by the way, folks, you're listening to Catskills Commerce here on WIOX Community Radio. I'm with, it's Ray Pucci. I'm here with Assemblyman Chris Tague, and we've been talking about the Farm Labor Wage Board. Chris, I'm sitting here in Roxbury, and you think of, I'm just thinking of my drive here, or my drive a little bit later on, back over toward Delhi and Meredith, where I live, and going up Route 30, and some of the farms that are there are coming across Route 23, both places in your district. And that view, we came up with this fancy term view shed a few years ago, but think about what that land is going to look like if those farms are not there.
Well, I'll give you a perfect example, the Albano farm.
Yeah, good
right
example.
There. And those folks have diversified. They don't, besides their milk producing, they do beef, they do vegetables. I mean, those folks have diversified their operation. They're great farmers. Just think of that place being gone, all the land that they take care of. Listen, there's no better environmental manager than a farmer.
You bet.
And they take good care. They're a top-notch operation. And there's many of those across Delaware County, the farmers just like them. What a shame it would be to lose folks like that.
Yeah, and I think, the Albano farm is a great example. That's, in a lot of ways, you know, that's our typical farm. It's a relatively small family operation, and as you said, they continue to be excellent stewards of the land. You're not going to, you know, you're relying on that land for your livelihood. You're not going to poison that land.
Yep, absolutely.
Chris Tague, keep up the good fight, man.
Well, you too. I appreciate you and Lily all the time. What you do for the business community and the people of Delaware County. I can't thank you enough. And you know, like I said, we just got to keep on the fight. We got to, you know, the biggest thing is letting others know that we exist. That was the reason for my farm tours. That's the reason why I've done some of the other things. I want people in New York City and Buffalo and these big metropolitan areas to understand that, yes, the middle of this state is inhabited and we do great things. And I'm so honored and proud to be from here. I could not think of my life of me being anywhere else. I live in the greatest part of the greatest country in the world. And we're so blessed and lucky. And, you know, that's what I'm going to continue to do, is let people know that we exist and that we do good things and that we matter and that we're part of this state. And, you know, Schoharie County, just quickly, Schoharie County is known as the breadbasket of the Revolutionary War.
That's right.
You know, and they were called the breadbasket because that's where all the fruits and vegetables and wheat and barley and everything came from.
All
That's
the grains.
That's how we fed the soldiers during the Revolutionary War. So, you know, we got to stick to our heritage, stick to what's been good to our communities. And, you know, again, I just encourage folks to make some noise, let your voices be heard. Don't do a disservice to our farmers. No farms, no food. Plain and simple.
Chris, you've been really generous with your time today, and I really appreciate that. But in just a couple minutes, give us a little sneak preview. You're going back in session next month in January. What's the preview? What are going to be the hot topics, you think?
Well, I think, you know, I just got the schedule for session yesterday. They only have us in session for 60 days, which is, I don't understand that. You know, I'm not sure. Listen, last year.
Come on, we got super majorities. They just, you know, they already passed the bills.
Well, my guess is that it's an election year and they're going to have a lot of primaries on the other side of the aisle. So
good idea.
Let's limit the amount of time that we're there. I guess it's good news that they can't screw things up any more than they already have. They won't be able to pass as many bills. But it's also, you know, I don't know what the agenda is right now. Like I said earlier, I am excited the fact that the Women's Conference has made it a top priority on their agenda for agricultural issues. So I'm looking forward to that. You know, I think that we need to do something about bail reform and law enforcement across the state. Mm-hmm. You know, we're hurting economy-wise with inflation. You know, we put a plan together in the minority, different areas where we think would help cut inflation. You know, we spent a lot of time the last 2 years on election law reform and the bail reform and you know, law enforcement stuff, and it just seemed to go south. It went the other way. Yeah. Of course, I opposed those initiatives, and I will continue to. But we need to fix them. So I would hope that those would be priorities on the agenda. Of course, the budget. You know, and I brought this up when we got all this money from the federal government, and the state budget was $212 billion, a budget that usually is 180. What are we going to do with these programs that they put together or initiatives that they started? What are they going to do when we can't afford a $212 billion budget because we're not getting any more money from the feds? You know, all those things need to be addressed.
Yeah, what is it that President Reagan once said? The closest thing we have to eternity in this lifetime is a government program.
Yeah, exactly. And it really is. Unfortunately, we've made government too big in this country, and especially in this state. Government's way too big, and a lot of people now feel entitled that the government's responsible for how they live their lives, and that's unfortunate because that isn't what America is about. America is about hope and opportunity, and for everyone to have opportunity and being able to do their own thing without government interfering. I hope we have more discussions like that this year. I doubt it, but I hope that we do. But I think a lot of time between January and April is going to be spent figuring out the state budget. We have the cannabis law that got passed again.
Uh-huh.
And I hate to make this political, but this is another example of the majority putting the cart before the horse. The program was not well thought out. People were not put in positions when they should have been. And, we legalize something, but we don't know how we're going to do it or where we're going to do it. Again, they're so quick to want to pass things because of the political, the politicizing of it to make themselves look good. I was very disappointed, and we're all disappointed with Governor Cuomo anyways, but I was disappointed with him originally because he had made the statement that he was going to go to all the other states that had legalized marijuana, and he was going to get the pros and cons, and that's how we were going to design that legislation. And he never did it. There are horror stories coming out of places like Colorado, things that we could have learned a lesson from, but it never was put into the bill. So, and unfortunately, that's what happens in Albany a lot of times. They pass these hot button issues because, they're important to their constituents in different areas, but they don't think about what the consequences are for the rest of the state, or the consequences of them not doing their homework and putting stuff into place before the bill is actually passed. And that, I'm hoping that some people will wake up and start doing a better job at that.
Well, I know you're going to be there keeping their feet to the fire.
January 5th, I have a date with destiny.
You can't leave me there. You're going to have to explain what that means.
That's the first day of session in Albany.
All right. Well, we're all looking forward to that one.
Well, listen, I did want to say to all your listeners and to you and Lillian, I hope you folks have a wonderful Christmas and holiday season. I don't know if I'll get to see you before then, but I hope all your listeners and you folks had a great Thanksgiving. And, I'm looking forward to hopefully us finally getting through this COVID thing and everybody being able to get back to normal. And my big goal is just being a part of moving this state forward, making, hope and opportunity for our young folks, and giving them a future, here at home. That's my goal, and that's what I'm going to be working at here in the next year.
Well, that's a goal you and I share. So that's certainly one of our priorities with the Delaware County Chamber as well. And how do we reverse this dramatic population trend, this population flight that we continue to see here in upstate New York?
I always tell everybody, let people live like Americans. That's who we are. Let people be American and let them live what the meaning of this country is. That's what will keep people here. You can't regulate and tax people out of the state, and that's exactly what has happened. Since I became someone who paid taxes, every year it goes up. It doesn't matter. It goes up, and it's after a while, people just say enough is enough, and they go somewhere else, and it doesn't need to happen. doesn't need to happen.
Well, we need to help create those new opportunities for folks, particularly our young people, and make sure that they understand that there is a future, that there are futures, I should say, for them here in Delaware County, here in the Catskills, and throughout the 102nd Assembly District, whatever that district's going to look like in a few months.
Well, the good news is one of the maps did have all the towns that I represent currently still had those towns in my district. One of the maps did. So I think it's safe to say I should still be representing some parts of Delaware County. I wish I could represent the whole thing, but you know, I feel bad for Delaware County, to be quite honest, because, you know, I think it's 3 senators and 3 assembly members.
We got, we got 3 senators and 3 different senators, 3 different assembly members.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. Brian Miller, myself, and Joe Angelino are in the
assembly. Yeah.
And Pete and
Senator Akshar
and Martucci.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, you know, it's tough when you have a county like Delaware County and you got 3 in each house. It's, you know, it just doesn't make sense. It's kind of hard. You know, how many times we have a meeting about something and you have, you know, all 3 of us are at the meeting because we all represent a little part of it. It's like redundancy, and it's too bad. I think it would be easier for, you know, 1 senator and 1 assemblyman to represent the entire county. I think,
Chris, it just means I have an opportunity to make more friends.
Yes, you do. Well, I know I can speak for the other members that we mentioned. I'm sure they all feel the same way.
Well, Chris Tague with the 102nd Assembly District, thank you so much for joining me. America's Assemblyman.
Well, thank you.
Talking about that farm labor bill. So take a look at,
Sure.
If folks want to get in contact with you, how can they do it?
They can do it 2 different ways. They can go to the Assembly website and go to the 102nd Assembly District, and all my contact information is there. Or they can call me directly on my cell phone at 518-365-1573. I know you always put your hand over your face. When
I do every time you give that cell phone, because folks, that really is his cell phone number. And he really does respond.
Yeah, that's the way, that's the way we are.
You're a poor wife.
Yeah, she does yell at me once in a while and ask me to put the phone down. But, you know, listen, when you're doing this job, people expect you, you know, they expect when they call for somebody to answer. They don't like to listen to answering machines. So, you know, I try to do my best to get back to everybody and to do what I can. And I think being transparent, especially in today's world, is the most important thing. I'm no different. You know, I look at this as we're all part of the football team. I just happen to be the quarterback. I'm no more important than any other individual that lives in the 102nd Assembly District. I'm just your representative in Albany. So there's I'm not too good or better than anybody to where I can't pick up the phone and talk to you. And that's how I am. That's how I would expect my representative to be that represents me. So that's the way we do it, you know. And again, I just want to say to everybody, besides the happy holidays and Merry Christmas, but I just hope that God blesses each and every one of you. We've been going through some tough times the last 3 years, and don't anybody lose your faith in God. And I just want to say God bless each and every one of you.
Well, Chris, thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for spending this last hour with us talking about some real issues that are real important or should be real important to each of us. So you stay well. Please give my regards to your family and especially your staff. God bless them. Holy smokes.
Absolutely.
And you and I, I'm sure we'll be talking real soon.
You got it. And same to your wife too, Ray, and your
Thank
family.
you.
We appreciate that. And you know, you mentioned a good thing, my staff. I owe the world to them. Those ladies work very, very hard. I am very blessed to have a staff like them. So
Yes, you are.
I sure am.
Well, you stay well. We'll talk soon, and keep up the fight, man. Keep it
You
up.
too. You too, my friend. God bless you all. Thank you.
You as well. See you soon. Well, thank you for joining us this afternoon here on Catskills Commerce. I hope you learned a few things. I hope you take some action because it's important. As Chris